India produces 1,500 films annually across more than 20 languages, making it the world's largest producer of films. Us Indians have been watching movies since 1913. We are, by almost every measure, the most cinematic country on earth. And yet, India only has one functioning 70mm IMAX screen. One. Not one per city, not one per region, just one total for 1.47 billion people. Okay, so can I go there and watch Project Hail Mary? Question? No, you cannot. The screen is in Ahmedabad and is primarily used to screen documentaries on space, dinosaurs, and it has never actually screened a single mainstream film. So while directors like Christopher Nolan,
Yeah, this is the Oppenheimer IMAX 70mm print. Full 3 hours and 9 seconds of the film. And I'm told it's 11 miles of film for one screen.
Denis Villeneuve,
The future of cinema is really related with this idea of event. There's nothing more spectacular than an IMAX screening.
and Ryan Coogler,
The same ones?
Same
Same ones. Oh, yeah, same two. Oh, man, that's crazy.
and so many more are filming movies in the native 70mm format and producing reels that are up to 600 pounds and 11 miles long just so the movies can be watched in the way they intended. We over here in India are watching a digitally compressed version of the same film on a screen that, I cannot stress this enough, was marketed to us as IMAX. How did this happen? How does a country that is home to some of the biggest superstars in the world, a country that treats a Friday release like it's a national event, end up so completely shut out of the format that the world's greatest living filmmakers are fighting so hard to preserve? That's what we're going to find out. First, we need to establish something important. Because if you've watched a movie at an IMAX screen in India and walked out thinking you experienced IMAX, I have some unfortunate news for you. You probably didn't. And I say this not to be cruel, but I say it because IMAX Corporation has spent the last 15 years selling you a very convincing imitation of something extraordinary, and most people have no idea that there's a difference. So let's fix that. IMAX stands for Image Maximum. It was developed in Canada in 1967 by 4 filmmakers and engineers: Graham Ferguson, Roman Kreuter, Robert Kerr, and William C. Shaw. They looked at the multi-screen experiments at Montreal's Expo 67 and thought, what if instead of several small screens, you had one enormous, overwhelming screen? That question eventually became the company, the format, and one of the most consequential technologies in cinema history. The original true IMAX uses what's called a 1570 film format. Here's what that means. The film runs horizontally through the projector rather than vertically, which is already unusual.
Spun through horizontally, and this is that same image as it would look if it was captured with the film being sent through and exposed vertically.
And each frame uses 15 perforations of 70mm film stock. Standard 35mm film, the kind used in most conventional cinema for decades, uses 4 perforations per frame. Its frame is roughly the size of a postage stamp. An IMAX 1570 frame has roughly 10 times the surface area. Not 10% more, 10 times more. That is not an upgrade, that is a completely different category of object. So IMAX looks amazing, sounds amazing, it's an experience for all cinephiles out there. Then why are us Indians the fall guy? In 2008, IMAX Corporation made a business decision. A very understandable decision and also a deeply annoying one. They introduced what they called the IMAX Digital, a cheaper, faster to install system that used 2 standard 2K projectors and a smaller screen with a ratio of 1.9:1. The resolution difference was not subtle. You were going from an equivalent of 18K film to 2K digital. That's a 9 times lower resolution. 9 times. But here is what IMAX Corporation did next, and this is what should bother you. They kept calling it IMAX, same brand, same logo, and same premium ticket prices. The screens went from being several stories tall to being in some cases barely larger than a standard multiplex auditorium. Cinephiles online quickly coined the name for this phenomenon, LIMAX. Why did IMAX do this? Because it worked spectacularly. They went from 300 screens globally in the end of 2007 to over 1000 by the end of 2015. You cannot argue with the math. But what you can argue with is that in scaling the brand, they diluted the very thing that made the brand worth having. They took a Rolls-Royce and quietly swapped the engine for a Toyota's, kept the badge and charged Rolls-Royce prices, and most people never noticed. India got almost entirely the Toyota version. Every single IMAX screen that you've ever sat in any multiplex in Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore or Chennai, every single one of them is a digital IMAX screen. Now some of them are genuinely impressive. The laser IMAX screens at PVR, especially in Mumbai and Delhi, are technically very strong and meaningfully better than a standard screen, but it's still not a 70mm IMAX. It is not what Nolan designed the IMAX sequences of Oppenheimer for. It is not what Villeneuve built the Sandworm sequences of Dune for. It is not what Coogler shot every frame of Sinners for. And the one screen in India that is truly 70mm.
Everybody.